wanted to show you like my center of gravity. I kind of just test that by where you place your finger. You want to try and find its balance point, right? This is part of doing weight distribution. Lower the center of gravity and move the weight forward more. So those were my two main things I want to do without having to buy new shocks. That was pretty cool, so I'm just going to run this in a competition, put finisher on it. Hello folks, welcome to Netcruzer RC. This video is going to be about a new crawler that I picked up to build out and set up for the Call to Crawl 2022 series. This is going to be the first year that I have ever attended. This is a local Ottawa area in Canada regional event, and it's a series event over 4 events throughout the spring and summer. You get tech points. I was originally looking at getting an Element RC Ecto, but I have not been able to find any of those in stock, so I didn't put in a back order or anything. And then I was just at my local hobby store, and the Early Bronco went on sale. This is an SCX10.3, and it's the straight axle version. Now, when these originally came out, I very much liked the look of them. They are a great looking scale rig, and they have a lot of cool features. It's the lowest price I'd ever seen it. They had it in stock. I decided to take advantage of it and see what I could do with this platform. It is my first SCX10. All the other SCX10.3s are portal. I've had a couple of portal trucks. I really wanted to have a straight axle experience. That's why I was looking at the Element and some of the other straight axle high performing RCs. Then this came up and I decided to give this a try. It does have a similar layout to some of the other crawlers that I have, and the motor sits up high and way up front. And then there's a scale transfer case, and it has the full inner fenders. Before we get into my customization, I just wanted to show you what you get out of the box with an SCX10.3. You get the Spectrum DX3 radio system with the one-handed control options. You have a 35 turn brush motor and a servo which sits underneath a 3D engine. Something that could be considered good or bad is the electronic system that comes in it, which is the Spectrum 40 amp combined receiver and electronic speed control. So this is a DSMR Spectrum receiver, as well as it's a 4-channel, and it's a electronic speed control. They've also added a cat pack with it, as you'll see on the truck, and it's good and bad. I was actually planning to put one of these in my Gen 8 quite a while ago and then never did. So I've had one of these for a couple of years. I thought they were a pretty neat solution if you have any of the Spectrum radio systems, as it was a heck of a value where you get a 40 amp continuous ESC with 180 amp burst, 4-channel, and a bunch of the smart features included as well. So I thought it was a pretty neat solution. So this will be my first time ever driving one in this. You do get some beadlock wheels, but you'll see that I've changed those out in a moment. You do get scale lights. You get the AR45 straight axle. The transmission comes as a functional dig where it locks up the rear wheel, or a 2-speed, or both. It comes set up out of the box with the dig function. If you want to run the 2-speed, you add another micro servo to run that other linkage and take out the blocker for that. And you get all metal links. SCX10.3 feature is the hidden body clips that sit underneath the body, so there's no body clips poking up out of the body. So one of the things that Axial did when they came out with this, they used the straight axle kit that they came out with as an upgrade option for your Jeeps. The AR45 straight axles, it includes some gearing changes in the transmission because you have to gear it up, I believe. 100mm shocks versus 90mm shocks. All of these things are what comes in the Early Bronco out of the box, and that is, in my opinion, one of the biggest downsides to it is the 100mm shocks. Sits up very high. The body sits up very high, and it gives the whole truck a very high C of G and a lot of rocking back and forth motion. And if you go and look at any of the other videos that came out on this as people run them stock, you will see that it has torque twist. It has a lot of body roll. It'll do lateral side-to-side rolls, as well as if you're on an incline, it tends to kind of pick up the front leg and you're kind of three-wheeling along. I wanted to try and eliminate all that before I ever drove this in a competition type situation. So I've been putting in quite a few hours just tinkering with this thing out of the box, never driven it. I've kind of made it my own now, and I want to show you what that is like before we go take it to the first competition. I was trying to keep this a fairly affordable conversion and tweaking, and I think I've done that. So the goal was lower the ride height without changing out the stock shock. The vehicle still has 100mm shocks on it, and this is what it looks like. This is with the vehicle, you know, fully drooped. There's a significantly less of a wheel gap. This is a much more scale look in my opinion, as well as I've changed the wheels and the tires, and I've added a driver and a couple of other scale details. Let's get into it. First of all, I am going to run this in a competition, so ropes, always a big deal to have ropes, so just set that up. I don't have a winch. I've never had a winch on any of my crawlers. Not that I don't want one, it's just that this is a much easier and cheaper solution just to do it. I wanted to change the wheels and tires. Now the wheels and tires that it comes with are not too bad, these Falcon Wild Peaks, and I'm sure they would break in okay. They're a little hard. Surprisingly, they're vented. The other thing that these tires come with is these little scale nut covers, which look pretty cool. They just didn't really look right with my wheels. They just kind of thread on the threading, and you can put those on, but they don't really match with my goldish yellow wheels. I have taken off all the wheels and tires, including the one that sits on the back here, because this normally has a tire hanging off the back like that. Now in a competition crawl situation, typically, or any kind of performance upgrade to a crawler, you want to try and get the weight off of the back. You want as much weight forward as you can. First thing, get rid of that, and that saves you a lot of weight. And then I also did some other things with moving the weight forward, which you'll see under the body. I went with a wheel and tire package I've never used before. This is a J Concepts Landmine, but it is a 4.75 inch height. It's actually very comparable to the stock height of the stock wheels. It's just a much softer compound. So these are very soft. And they come with single stage open cell super soft foams as well, and these are in J Concepts green compound. So as you can see, with it just sitting here with barely anything done to it, it's already starting to compress a little bit. These have never been run. This whole truck has never been run. It's really going to be quite the trial here on the course. So if you see the lateral motion that I have now versus a clip that I'll show you of when it was stock, that's much better in my opinion. The pros and cons to doing this we'll have to find out later, but I think that this is what I want to do, which is when you look at this vehicle on the bench, it now has a much more appropriate sized wheel gap and lift. When it's, you know, it's kind of sits like this on 100mm shocks out of the box, and it just looks kind of silly. And even though I'm still on 100mm shocks, I've now been able to get it to sit at this kind of a ride height, and let me show you how I did that. So I've taken the shocks and I've moved them from their independent location down here upwards, or downwards I guess, to be on the same connection as this lower link. And in order to do that, you take out the screw that's here, you take out the screw that's here, you put in a longer screw from here, so you're just moving the shock from about here to here, which gives you that 1 centimeter or so lowering. You put in a 25mm screw. You can choose to put a nut on the other end if you want, like I did on the rear. I put a nut on the rear. So that gets the shock in a lower position, and then I played around with the geometry here a bit, as you have like 5 or 6 different options there. And that worked out pretty well, except for I was running an issue where once you lower it, then I was hitting the panhard bar on full compression. And in order to fix that, I then changed them to a straight link. So I put on these Techno RC ball ends as a straight link on the panhard bar, and that got rid of the interference at the end of this all the time. And now I have pretty much full compression now without it hitting the pumpkin on the panhard bar. And then the rest of it was just tweaking around with it, making sure that I wasn't binding up on anything. I did have to adjust this link a bit. I think I turned it in 1 or 2 rotations to shorten this one a bit, so that when I was compressing, nothing was binding. I just got to play around with that stuff, get your geometry right, and I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Now regarding the wheels and tires, I didn't show you the wheels are a no-name wheel that I just got off of Amazon. These are a aluminum beadlock wheel with a bunch of hardware on it. It took me a while to build these, but they ended up turning out very well, and I do like the color scheme of them, because I wanted to have the kind of the yellowish gold, because adding weight, I did not like the red diff covers on the AR-45, so I ordered some brass diff covers. So I didn't like having this red diff cover on. That's what comes on at factory, and it just clashed with everything, right? I didn't like the red when everything else was white and blue and black. So I ordered the brass cover for it, but because it's designed for the AR-45P, it has this little cutout on it which you don't want on the AR-45 straight axle. So there is a little tiny gap here that could let moisture through, and I'm probably going to put some shoe goo or something on that to try and seal that up. I will make sure that I don't have water getting into the diffs. Then I started working on some upgrades to the interior. One benefit to the Early Bronco is you get a full interior. You get a working, not fully working, it doesn't turn the tires, but you do get a wheel, you get pedals, you get a steering wheel, you get a shifter with a transfer case. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. You get an actual 4x4 shifter. And so I ordered an action figure, and this is a Star Wars Luke Skywalker of Dagobah edition. And he even comes with a lightsaber and a blaster, but I didn't use those. But I thought that his clothing was a good match for this vehicle. Now, one of the big things that I changed was the seat and the door sills. Factory, this is all white or the color of your paint, and then it makes it look weird where you've got the seat and everything sitting on top of white, and then the door. Now you actually have an illusion of this all being interior, and it gives you a lot more depth of a look if you get this black. So what I did was I just used some vinyl tape. I had some carbon fiber based vinyl, and I just cut some pieces and put that in. I gave a little door still here for when the guy steps out, he can step on that. And then the seat. The big difference in the seat is that these are now flipped the other way, and they bolt in. So there's 4 screw holes on the back. These bolt into the bottom of the Lexan through the plate in the bed, and you can unbolt them. So I took out the 4 screws. I then flipped the seat 90 degrees, and this makes so much more sense because before you could never have the driver with his back against the seat because the seat bottom was so wide compared to the seat top. It made no sense. I've done both seats this way. So this is actually, as it comes with the factory, this is the back of the seat and this is the bottom of the seat. I have flipped them the other way, and I've just VHB, double-sided stick taped them. And I've also made this so it's a little bit of a different position than this one because everyone doesn't run their seats at the exact same level. So it gives a little bit more depth and detail, and I really like this. That was one of the biggest things that really kind of made the scale not look correct with my driver. This is a 6-inch driver. And this body, while they say this is a 10th scale vehicle, I think someone did the math, and this is actually a 7th scale Early Bronco body, pretty close to that. And now with the seat in this orientation, it makes a heck of a lot more sense from when you're looking through at the driver to how the driver now sits in the seat and where his butt sits in the seat while it's, supporting his knees, and you can still have the feet touching the pedals. I really like how that turned out, and they're secure enough. And then in the future, I may decide to actually build out a backing. Yeah, I might add a backing to the seats later on if I choose to. I've also added a couple of scale accessories, so fire extinguisher, water can, gas can, another fire extinguisher, and then I just changed some of the decals a bit. And I do say decal because I'm Canadian instead of decal. I used some of the other ones that I had with me because I found that the sheet that you get with this vehicle is pretty limited. Like, you only get Axial, a very few amount of bumper stickers that are fun. Almost all of them are just branding for itself, which is kind of boring. I didn't like the Falcon tire or the icon indicator, so I changed it to J Concepts Finisher from an old body that I had. This is a J Concepts body, even though that I'm running a J Concepts tire. I just thought that was pretty cool, so I'm just going to run this in a competition. Put Finisher on it. Let's make sure we finish. Tech check time. Here we go, boys. Oh, hi, good morning.
Okay. How are you doing there?
Very good.
Holy
Full
loaded.
tech. I think you're the first.
Yeah, that's what I was trying for.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. I just added a couple of other little things, like I covered up the license plate sticker with my own brand. I added one D-ring thing just because I had one. I put the bumper sticker on. Tire, like I told you about. That's the other big thing, is because I wanted to change the lateral weight distribution as well as lowering the weight distribution, so I have a lot more weight up front now, picking it up, and it wants to nose forward. Anyway, let me get the body off and I'll show you what it's like under the hood. But before we get there, this vehicle does come with lights. The lights look pretty cool. I'll turn the body on and show you later. But the grill out of the factory is kind of wonky. I may try and fix that later. Kind of a quality control thing there. I've seen that on a couple of early Broncos as you get them out of the box. I did already try and stick it back. It's too warped for even the sticky tape to stick. Let's get the body off. The body clips are on the bottom here, so let me get these body clips off. Okay, let's get the body off. I am tethered by a couple of points, so I have the wiring for the lights as well as I have my recovery rope on the front, so I'll just set this. The nice thing about the Axial SCX10.3, and the reason why I wanted to use this for this call to crawl competition, is because this is a tech point competition, so you get extra points by having a 3D engine, you get extra points by having a transfer case, you get extra points by having a scale interior with a driver with feet. So I've got almost all the tech points that I can get. I took off the rear battery mount because, like I said, why do you want weight on the back? You do not want weight on the back. You want to try and get weight out of the back. So took that off. And I'm only going to run the battery in the front in this position, and I'm running a 3S 4300 milliamp hour high voltage pack, 60C, and these are a soft pack, and they've recently changed them, and this is now kind of the version 2 of this battery, and the thing that has changed is this connector. So these batteries, I just have a little mount on there to fit it better, but these batteries used to come with an XT60 connector on them. Now they come with this now they come with some kind of different connector on it, and this is after you put the XT60 extension on. And then because this vehicle comes with IC5 or EC5, then I've got another adapter. This is where it's a little bit of a downgrade on the newest battery because of the way that they changed the connector. Because now you've got bullets, bullets, bullets. You know, you have 3 bullet connections in a row, when before you only used to have 2. If you went from an XT60 to an IC3, now you've got 3, because it also has the internal bullet connection for its own unique new connector. So it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to be something you're going to notice. It's just a change that I don't really think was a good one. The batteries themselves are awesome. Love high voltage batteries. This might be overkill. There's a lot of weight here. And so what I did to compensate for it was I added lead weight on this side. Eventually, I may look at getting a battery that I can put right up at the very front here, because there is enough room to do that. Not a battery pack this big. There's enough room in here to put a battery in if you want to in the future. Now, if you remember how I mentioned that I modified the front of the panhard bar so that I could get this much kind of articulation, or actually articulation, I didn't even show you, but articulation is pretty darn good, and this is with the mods. So apparently that's the reason why they wanted to go with the 100mm shocks, is so you would keep a high articulation. So I still have this much travel on the front without it hitting anything. On the rear I can gain a little bit if I trim these back. And I didn't do them yet just because I wasn't entirely sure. I wanted to make sure I run it first before I cut anything off that I can never get back again. But it is the first thing to hit the rear links. The rear upper links hit the battery mount, which is stupid. Come on, this is part of the job of designing these things, is that you want to make sure that things don't interfere. So I didn't necessarily want to lose these little mount directly, so I might Dremel off the bottom because it's not a whole lot of clearance you need. You certainly don't need to cut them completely off. It's because they're so thick. Why are they so thick? Anyway, it's a fairly easy thing. You may be able to just trim them. I also did kind of tidy up the wiring a bit. There's a lot going on here with the speed control. It has a lot of wires come off it because they added the lights. They also added a cap pack, which is here. I've tidied things up significantly. So I have double-sided taped my cap pack down here. I've Velcroed, or Velcroed up the wires a bit. I like these kind of Velcro strips now for tidying wires, because you can take them off, put them back on again. The dig servo and stuff, it's, I mean, that's as clean as I'm gonna get it for first run, and we'll go from there. it's pretty much ready to power on. Actually, the radio's on. Let me power this device on. The other thing here is that this speed control has no calibration. It auto-calibrates every time you power it on, so they say. So what happens if you change your radio? I'm not sure. I mean, calibration seems pretty good. I can go pretty slow. I mean, it seems perfectly acceptable to go out there and try and run a competition with it. We're going to soon try. It is a little bit risky to do this on a completely untested rig, but we will do it. See if my weight distribution works. Yep. You can do it. And those over, that's the thing. Oh, gonna keep on the throttle so you don't endo. Sweet. I'm also going to use the stock radio for it because I've never really ran one of these before other than on a basher, and I wanted to see what it's like for crawling. I do like the size and the shape of it, and it's got the D-ring, so I'll probably have a lanyard on here, have this hanging around my head the whole day, and just walk around with this and have a pretty good setup. As well as if this gets ruined, I don't care because it was like a freebie radio that came with it. Alright, I just plugged in my wires so that you can see the lights. The lights, as they come, are actually pretty nice because you get the whites for the headlights, you get ambers for the markers, and taillights too. They don't, you know, light and dim as you go on gas and brake because there's no light controller. These are just powered on all the time. But they look nice. They look very nice. Okay guys, I think that's pretty close to being main coverage of things I wanted to go over. You don't get a whole lot of extra parts anymore. On Axial stuff, that used to always be the thing, was that you got a lot of spare parts. You get very minimal stuff with this. You get a book, you get a sticker pack, and you get a couple of extra body mounts in case you do want to change to a different style of body, so that you could try and run a different style body because the body mounts go underneath, so it's kind of unique. And then this is the other tool pack that you get, which I never even opened it up. So you get servo saver parts, I believe, and a couple of other little accessories. You get a receiver box in case you want to pull out that Spectrum Firma 40 amp combined unit. So they give you a receiver box, a T-wrench, and you actually get 4 AA's for the radio, which is nice. I always appreciate it when you get AA's. And getting the body on and off is not that difficult, but they are unique inner fenders, and the motor mold is also unique because this is a Ford motor versus the LS they normally do. But the inner fenders are unique for the Early Bronco. It makes putting the body on and off a little bit easier than the, it's the radio chirping if you don't run it for a while. It makes putting the body on and off a little bit easier than the Jeeps apparently, but they still kind of get caught up. You kind of do need 2 hands, and then after you get it mounted in its locates, then just trying to play with this inner fender because it tends to be on the outside of this lining a lot when you can kind of tuck it right in underneath to be on the inside. And then on these rails, they do recommend, even though you can run the body on the outside groove, on the little groove, they kind of, according to the box art, they recommend you running it like that. Okay, so that's my Axial SCX10.3 Early Bronco build, and we're going to go out and run it for the first time at an actual event. So I'll make a separate video about the event and how it does on the course and stuff, and go out and have some fun with this thing. I'll put links in the description for some of the parts that I put into it, mostly the wheels and tires. The truck itself is mostly stock still. I kept stock electronic system in it, stock radio, stock motor, stock ESC, stock servo even. I was pretty impressed with the servo strength. Since it's directly connected, not on a saver, the servo seems strong, but we'll find out on the course how strong it really is. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're new on here, subscribe. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching.